Hey, what's going on, everybody? Check it out. Today, I want to do a few things. For one, I want to test this microphone system. And I have two microphones. I've now aligned it from my other room to this room. So I want to be able to actually test out this audio. Now, I did make a mistake, and I didn't buy the equipment needed to run headphones from the actual audio interface over to here. So I can't live monitor myself. So you will hear me kind of going away from the mic. You can hear that my voice is a little bit off, and then it comes back very deep and rich when I'm very close. So I'll try to stay as close as I can to the mic. Of course, having headphones is what keeps you from making any mistakes and not being close to the mic, because you can automatically hear yourself. But anyways, today's topic, it's very simple. I just wanted to talk about entrepreneurialism. A lot of people ask me about what I've done and how I've gotten to where I am at this point. In general, how entrepreneurialism got to be a part of my life, and people just have a lot of questions. So this is not going to be my all-inclusive entrepreneurial video, but this is a video that hopefully can cover some of the topics that came into my head as I was trying to think through this, this is going to be a very raw video. I don't think I'm going to edit very much at all, just so that it can all go nice and flowing. I can practice doing one takes, and you guys can listen to this while you're doing whatever it is, driving to work, at work, doing cardio, whatever. I'm going to keep this, as a 20-30 minute video. Anyways, now the first thing I want to talk about entrepreneurialism is the fact that in the beginning, you're going to work really hard at whatever it is that you're going to work at. So whatever your subject is of entrepreneurialism, you're going to start, and nobody's going to know who you are, what you're doing, and you're going to have no result. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm saying that to be realistic, because when you first start, you might be excited to the point that oh yes, I'm going to put all this effort in this weekend, and then hopefully it's just going to start working. But it's not. It's just not going to work. And I like to call this the no man's land, or the dead zone, essentially. What's going to happen is you're going to put all this effort into whatever it is. Let's just put this into my subject of YouTubing and cinematography and trying to expose myself on social media and things like that. You're going to make so many videos, you're going to make so much content, but no one's going to be watching because you don't quite have an audience yet. Therefore, no result is going to come. And entrepreneurialism always starts from that spot. You start from the spot of having nothing come out of it. And the idea of entrepreneurialism is pushing past that dead man zone, because that's 90% of your entire entrepreneurial career, is getting through that whole nothing happening zone where nobody cares. I always like to use this phrase when I talk about being an entrepreneur. You're going to work way, way harder as an entrepreneur than you're rewarded. But eventually, by working for an extremely long time, doing that, getting rewarded way less than you should be for the amount of work that you're putting in, at least, eventually the tides will switch, and then you'll actually be getting paid more than you're working. Of course, this is kind of like the allure of being an entrepreneur, is that when you see people who are entrepreneurs who have succeeded at it, you look at them and you say, wow, that person, maybe does a lot, doesn't do a lot, whatever, gets paid a lot of money and is known and is successful, and what they're doing matters and people care. How did they get to that point? A lot of people think that entrepreneurs just got there. They just got it handed to them. And some people did, but I'd say about 98% of people who are entrepreneurs had to grind and hustle and just push through almost insurmountable odds, where it seems like they were not going to ever succeed. Because I remember when I started, man, and it seemed like I was never going to succeed. Of course, I would celebrate the times that I did get a little bit of this or that, a little attention, a little views, a little subscribers, the milestones, things like that. But after a certain point, you feel like you're working so hard, but nothing's coming from it. You have to remember that is the separation between someone who works for an entrepreneur and someone who is an entrepreneur. If you work way, way, way harder without expecting any reward, and you just keep going, you can't fail. If you continue to push and you continue to work all the time, you cannot fail, because eventually that workload will surmount to something, And if it's not surmounting something, you need to switch things up a little bit. But what my point is if you never stop trying, there's an infinite amount of potential. And because you have an infinite amount of potential, eventually things will work. And that is exactly how it worked for me. It didn't work for 4 years doing YouTube. And then this last year and a half, it's really started to pick up. And that's due to me just never giving up, continuously pushing, continuously trying to do something new, making connections, just working my ass off, double timing, triple timing with school and work and things like that, just to make sure that I'm having the time to pursue my entrepreneurial dream while still also making money and doing all the things that I need to do. Now, another thing that's going to happen is when you first start, pursuing your entrepreneurial dream, people, they believe in status. They believe in status. They believe in demand and following, and they believe in records, meaning like you've been around for a long time. You've established in 2010. People like to hear that you are successful. That's the status. People like to see the following. Of course, that's the following on Instagram, YouTube, or in general having a large audience. If you're a musician, having a huge following or whatever it is. And then, of course, records just meaning you've been around for a long time. You're established. People know that you've been around for a long time. That's something that gets you a lot of clout. Without those three things, people are going to hear about whatever it is that you're pursuing, and then they're, whether or not they think it's cool or like, oh, that's an interesting idea, they're going to think that it's silly because you haven't proved yourself. Maybe they do or don't believe in you, but it has obviously not shown anything yet. There's nothing really to show for. And the only thing that people can believe in is you. And most likely people will not believe in you unless you have that experience, that records. So what I'm saying is, for example, if Mike Rashid started rapping, people would believe in him because he has a following and he has that record of being around for many, many years. But if this is you, and you've never done anything before, you've never shown people that you can succeed, you also have no following, you have no status or anything like that, and then you want to start rapping. People are going to hear you around you locally, your family, your friends, people that you go to the gym with, and they're going to say, wow, that's cool, but that's not going to happen. They'll say, wow, congrats, or good luck with that, but they'll be doing it in a patronizing way, which maybe they're trying to do, maybe they're not trying to do. But point being, and it's understandable, most people cannot support something until they've seen it work. So being an entrepreneur, you're going to have to push yourself against just the most insurmountable odds in all directions, especially in the support category. Your family, your friends, and people are not going to support you as much as you maybe would hope, especially when you're excited. This is something I had to experience a lot. You're excited about a new project you just finished. You finally came out with that new video. You finally came out with that new song. You finally came out with a new concept design, whatever it is, and you want to put it out. You want to post it on Facebook or whatever, and you want people to say, wow, that's really cool, just like you, like you're just as excited. You want them to be just as excited as you are, right? And that's sort of the letdown, is that you're going to put out that video, and then you're going to get 45 views, and you just put 10 hours of filming, production, and editing, musical scoring, transitions, color correcting. Everything goes into this, and no one's going to care. And that's part of being an entrepreneur, is no one cares, but you have to care. You have to carry yourself. You have to be your entire support system. And by being your entire support system, you can cause yourself to believe in yourself, to push yourself further, to reward yourself for a good project and things like that. You can't depend on anyone but yourself as an entrepreneur. You are a lone wolf out there, and you have to keep your morale high, because as soon as you let your morale drop and you stop being consistent, your entrepreneurialism dream is pretty much over until you continue. A tip that I can give you as an entrepreneur, and the way that I'll keep myself going, a lot of people will say, how do you continue working so hard? How do you motivate yourself to work so hard? How do you stay ambitious? How do you manage so many different things at once? I don't know if you guys are new here to my channel, but obviously I'm doing videos for a week. I'm going to start this podcasting thing, a music thing. I'm a cinematographer for CT Fletcher. I'm a bodybuilder / competitor, or whatever you want to call that. So I compete on stage. I actually lift and try to improve my physique. I own a clothing company. I was going to point at myself, but this is actually Chelsea Lift's shirt, not mine. But I own my own clothing company, Beyond the Week. I manage Obese to Beast clothing line in terms of just new developments and helping it get here and there and shipped and processed and the store and everything. I do a lot of different little jobs, and essentially a lot of people are confused about how do you stay on top of all those different things if you have so many different little jobs that you have to take care of. The way that I've found to be the most helpful in making sure that you're on top of everything and also staying productive, because if you ever just sit there and you have nothing to do, then your entrepreneurial spirit should be telling you, I have time right now. I should not sit here and watch Netflix. That's not something that's doing anything for my life. Nothing. So I should use this time wisely and spend it on something that's going to improve myself. I make lists and I execute those lists. And you may have remembered the video I made about this a couple months ago. But essentially, I break my life down into major lists, major tasks and goals and things I need to achieve, medium and small lists. Essentially, a small list would be a daily list. So say, tomorrow I'll write down answer emails to Vega, answer emails to Gamma, answer emails to clients. Then I'll do edit and upload this podcast video, this one, just talking, theoretically. And then it'll be workout, and then afterwards finish up the CT Fletcher project and email it to the Iron Addicts gym. And finally get the mock-ups finished and also get the samples ordered. And so those will be my daily tasks. I just told you what the daily tasks are. And now when I wake up in the morning, I can look at my daily tasks, my to-do list, and I'll say, okay, I need to get those 3 things done before I go to the gym. Get those 3 things done. I feel good about myself. I've done everything I've told myself I wanted to do. I am being the best person that I can possibly be and the most optimal and useful person in terms of my time. Now I go to the gym. Then I'm finished with the gym. I come home. I know that I have those 3 things to do, so I know not to dilly-dally at the gym. I know I have work to do, so I'm not going to sit here and talk to my friends there. Or, if I was single or whatever, I wouldn't go talking to a bunch of girls because I know that I have something to do later. So then I get done with the gym, go straight home, eat as fast as possible because I know I have these tasks to do. And then I go and proceed to finish the tasks. Then at the end of the day, I've finished 6 different things, and they were all different facets. They were all different jobs that I was doing. And I feel complete. I feel happy that I've succeeded. And I feel like when you finish tasks that you set yourself out to complete, when you finish those tasks, you feel successful, you feel powerful, and you feel in control, right? Because you set those things out and you finished them and you produced work. You did something productive, right? And you know that you are capable and able to do those things. So it encourages you to do more of them. So the next day you want to do more miniature tasks and get a whole nother to-do list finished because that worked yesterday and it got you somewhere, right? So the same idea with medium and longer goals is, obviously you can't finish a huge goal at once. For example, I want to release a new design on tanks, shirts, and hoodies. You can't do that unless you set up the smaller tasks. So the small tasks, like I said, would be order samples, make mock-ups, come up with the idea, get in contact with a designer. Those are all little tasks that you can complete one at a time in a daily basis, and eventually it'll add up after you finish enough little tasks into a big task, which of course would be releasing the new design. Or, for example, say I want to write a mixtape. I would each day write lyrics is one of the tasks. The next one, practice lyrics. The next one, record a rough draft, like a rough recording of the song, and then maybe try recording the final song, polish the song, and upload the song. That's one song. And then you do that 14 more times. You got a mixtape. Same thing with like a cookbook, for example. This is something that I'm actually doing right now. I want to have 35 recipes in a cookbook, but I'm not going to sit down and write that all down at once because I just don't have the time. I'm in the middle of editing a CT Fletcher video right now, actually. I just broke so I could do this. And if I write down, though, one day I need to write, I need to take pictures of all my food and email them to myself. The next day I need to write down the instructions of how to perform that recipe. Now I have one recipe entry. And one of my medium tasks is that I'd complete one recipe per week. So if I continue to complete one recipe per week, that's 4 recipes per month. That's 35 in, I don't know, half a year, something, 6, 12, 18, 24, a little longer than half a year. Point being, though, is if I just kept looking at that recipe book like, wow, that's a big insurmountable thing. I have to get that done. When am I going to set aside a weekend to sit down and write my ebook? That's not how you get things done, folks. You don't sit there and do it all at once, because your quality of work is going to be terrible. If you spread your attention every day, one task at a time, to do your best work at that one task of each of those little sections, those little facets of the things that you're trying to produce, each of those tasks you'll perform at your best quality. And therefore, when you finally have finished enough tasks to make that whole thing complete, it's going to be high quality. See what I'm saying? If I write all the recipes, or if I try to wrap all at once in 1 or 2 days and I force it out, I'm going to get tired. I'm going to get bored. My body's going to get deteriorated, fatigued. It's going to come out less quality. So I think lists are a huge thing. I kind of went on a tangent there. The next thing I'd say with entrepreneurialism is, the definition of being an entrepreneur is taking risks. It's very risky business. And that's one of the hardest parts about being an entrepreneur, is you're not sure if it's going to work out. And that's why you're getting rewarded, because you're not going down the beaten path. If you're going down the beaten path, you're guaranteed. You know what I mean? It's safe. It feels fine. Like if you're going to enter a financial company at the bottom rung, and you know that there's 12 rungs and eventually you can become partner, then you know that every day you just show up, you do your work that you're supposed to do, you get your projects done, you come in, you turn it all in, and you've done what you're supposed to do, and you get paid at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month. You get your insurance taken care of. Your taxes are pretty easy to do, because someone's paying you and then taking those taxes out of your check, and at the end of the year you just very simply get rewarded it back. But entrepreneurialism, you are not working for anybody. What you are doing is completely up to you. You're deciding, this is what I think is going to succeed and work. And there's no guarantee on it. So I'm just going to keep putting in time until it does work, or hopefully it does work. Who knows? Maybe it won't work. Maybe this product's not a good idea. Maybe this idea is not a good idea. So there's no safety net, which is discouraging in some way, but also exciting in another way. I think it's exciting because I like to do things my way the first time. I like to work for myself. I don't like to work for other people. I hate that idea. I just don't like the idea of trading my time for money. I do like the idea of trading my time for purpose and passion. When I do my own things that I have set up to do, I feel like I'm building something large. I feel like I'm building a pyramid from the base level. Of course, the bottom layer of that pyramid takes the longest to build because it's the largest layer. The next layer takes almost an equal amount of time. You have to build that as well. And it's still not high enough for anybody to see. You got to keep putting all this time in to build these huge base layers. But then as you get taller, your pyramid, the layers that you have to build get smaller. So it becomes quicker. It becomes quicker to complete each layer and level. And as you complete each layer and level, you get taller and taller, and more people can see you. So you're being more rewarded for less work. You see what I'm doing? I'm kind of coming back to that same idea that I was saying earlier. Be new, unique, and creative. Present visually and audibly pleasurable content, as well as educational content that serves a good purpose. I have a list right here. Speaking of lists, I just want to make sure that I am, staying on point and whatnot. My purpose with this point is that a lot of people will try to do the beaten path, like we were talking about earlier. They'll say, hey, wow, there's a lot of people on YouTube, and what they do is record themselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a YouTube channel and record myself. And that's not bad. Taking inspiration is a great thing, and it's a good way to get started. But likely, if you are copying somebody else, or you're going down the beaten path, it's going to be very difficult for you to succeed in that beaten path, because there are already so many people in that path that are producing great content, who have much more experience, much more status, much higher quality than you, because they have been doing this for a really long time, and you're trying to break into their territory, essentially the turf. Now, if you're being creative, then instead of, doing the same videos as everyone else, you say, hey, wow, okay, let's see. I want to do videos just like those people. I want to do what they've done. I see the beaten path and I like it. How can I change it? And if you can do things in a similar way, but be the first to do it, then that's a huge way to succeed. For example, when I first started doing my Accutane series, I looked into YouTube because I was going to start Accutane, and I wanted to make sure that there was some documentation, some journey on Accutane, so I could kind of get my own, like I could look it up, see if there's anything I should be scared of or anything I should be aware of. I could see someone's journey, right? Essentially, I saw that there was nobody doing any sort of Accutane journeys. They were really only recording like one-off video where they explain their experience, maybe 2 videos, one, the first day, and then the one 4 months in, and then one at the end, something like that. I realized that there was a giant hole, a giant missing spot for a weekly updated Accutane journey. And that's what I fulfilled. I filled that spot because there was nothing there yet. And because I filled that spot, that series became, I wouldn't say massively successful, but pretty successful. A lot of people have heard of the Accutane Adventures. When you punch in Accutane, my video pops up on the first page, I think like maybe the 3rd or 4th result, and that's just the word Accutane. If you punch in adventures or logging or diary or results, I can show up all sorts of different places. Point being that I saw that niche, and I saw that that was a very unique thing I could fulfill, and I did. So same thing with you. Try to figure out how you can be unique, or how your product or your idea can be more unique and creative. And because there's nothing like it, it's likely that more people will like it. More people will be into it. Because if you don't have to compete with anybody, you are the one. You are the only one. So that you set the standard. You don't have to try to compete with anybody else. You don't have to try to stay up with anybody else or do better than anybody else. You just have to do better than yourself. I don't want to let this go too long, so I will try to keep this not too much longer. Excuse me while I burp over here. Like, what's his name? Like Tay Zonde or whatever. He's like, excuse me while I move my face away from the microphone so I can breathe. Chocolate rain. Okay, so this is another note that I wrote. Try to do as much as you can with as little as you can to learn your craft before you start investing big money. It's important to understand your business intimately first. Now, the reason I say this is because I have my own experience with this. I think it's valuable and powerful to learn your craft and your equipment extremely well with entry-level, not professional stuff. Meaning, when I got into YouTube, it was a lot longer. It was a long time ago, a lot longer than a lot of people, have been around for. And the point of me saying that is that I used literal tapes. Like my video camera would wire a tape into my computer, and then my computer would, as the analog tape was rolling through it, it would record that analog image and audio and translate it or convert it into a digital version. By knowing this, I understood how video was literally supposed to work and how audio was literally supposed to work. I also had limitations of, I didn't have the focus, like the ability to focus shallow and deep. I wasn't able to zoom with my lens. I wasn't able to have perfect audio. I didn't have an anti-shake or a stabilization setting on my camera. My camera was basically bare bones. So that basically means that I had to improve my quality to make the videos better instead of the camera's quality to make the videos better. See what I'm saying? So by using the worst or the lowest or the most basic setup, I have to improve my own ability to make things with that. And then by the time that I do have money to improve with another camera or whatever the equipment is, I know how to do it very, very well. So when I have those better things, not only is the equipment now better, so the quality of the audio and video is better objectively, subjectively, I myself am a better videographer, a better visualist, a better speaker. I'm better with audio. I understand. For another an example to make this a little bit more clear is, say I'm using a camera with a little bit less of a quality microphone on it. I know that I need to get closer to the camera when I'm talking to it so that it picks up my audio. Now, when I upgrade, I can actually be a little bit farther away from the camera, but my old habits have told me that being closer to the camera makes you sound better. So now with the improved quality of the microphone and also my own understanding and technique of, knowing that being closer to the microphone makes it louder and better, I will now have extremely good quality audio because I'm doubling up on both equipment and my own personal skill level. I tend to jump into purchases of equipment a little bit too early and a little bit too overzealous, meaning that I like to spend too much money. So when I first bought a shirt printing press because I wanted to get into clothing and having my own business, I could have done it so many different ways. I could have had someone else fulfill it for me and print it all up for me and stuff, but I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to understand how this was done. I wanted to do something unique and creative, which was be one of the only hand printing companies in the entire fitness industry other than Flag Nor Fail. And I just thought it was a more personal way to do it. Now, I could have gotten a shirt printing press for about $1,000, maybe $1,500 if I would have done one screen, one spot for you to press the shirt onto, and just simply one everything. But for whatever reason, Brian looks at the equipment and gets excited, and then looks at the other stuff and then gets excited, and then looks at the other stuff and gets excited. And so I saw the $5,000 press, and this one has 4 rotating screens. It has 2 spots for you to press shirts and heat flash cure shirts on. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's so cool. Wow, I just need to save $3,000 more for this one. It's worth it, though. It'll increase my capacity. It'll look better. The quality will be better. And so I purchased it. Now, that's one of the things that I could have gotten away with about 1/5 of the price with the exact same output. And that was one of my mistakes. That was one of the things that I was like, oh gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I could have still at this point been using that one press thing instead of the 4 press thing, and it would have been perfectly fine. So it ended up paying off now because, you know, we print a lot of shirts, and it has more than paid itself off in terms of being able to do giveaways and have our own personal hand printed stuff, things like that. I think it's an amazing thing. But again, I could have used a lot less money and had a different equipment. Another version of the same story is Brian, again, loves to buy high quality equipment. So when I decided, man, I'm going to take YouTube entirely seriously as my job, and I'm going to become professional at this whole passion of mine, I started looking at cameras, seeing which ones I thought were cool and which ones I thought were, you know, kind of crappy. And I was like, oh wow, okay, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good. I kept looking, and I could have gotten one for about $1,000. It would have been really good, especially for YouTube quality, because YouTube down converts videos anyway, so it's not like you need to have the juiciest thing ever. But I looked at this other camera and I was like, wow, they use that in movies. Wow, they use that in this movie that I've seen. Wow, they use it in that music video that I've watched. I really like the way that looks, of course, with color grading and all that good stuff. So I end up buying that camera. It was the Sony NEX FS100U, and at the time, that was about $4,500. Now, I could have gotten a camera that was equally quality for about $1,000, $1,500, something like that. And of course, the quality literally is different. You know, of course, the more expensive one is way better quality. But for what the purpose of what I was trying to do, it would have been fine. I was trying to vlog. I was trying to do full day eatings. I was trying to do recipes, just very simple stuff. And for videos on YouTube, it would have been perfectly fine. Now, after about a year, I was like, damn, I wish I wouldn't have spent so much money on this, because especially at the time, let me backtrack. When I was going back to either of these purchases, I was much younger. I was making a lot less money. So this was a huge portion. I mean, like 80% of my money at the time. Now that purchase actually ended up paying off. The reason it paid off is because I then became a cinematographer a few years later, professionally, and I was being hired for certain jobs. And that camera had so much attention because it was so large that everybody would notice me. Everybody would see me. So even though I was using it for my YouTube videos, which is hilarious because it's like this big of a microphone. I mean, it's like 12 fistfuls. When I would show up to, for example, the first Isotori, it was like the day before the Olympia Expo workout thing, and it was like Chris Jones and a bunch of other people, Big J and stuff. I recorded with that for my vlog, but because I was there with this big camera, the Isotori folks saw me and thought, wow, that's a huge camera, that he must be recording something great. I put a video up the next day, which was kind of just like a summary of that event. And the iStory guys saw it. They got in contact with me about 6 months later and said that they liked that video that they had saw and wanted to talk to me about possibly having me become a cinematographer for them. So that purchase actually ended up paying off, and I'm glad that I had that purchase for the fact that it's high quality, and it still stands to this day as a very high quality camera that outdoes a lot of other cameras, and especially like other cinematographers that I'll see when I'm working with like Mike O'Hearn or CT Fletcher or Big J or Cali Muscle or Mike Rashid, any of those guys. Their cinematographers will all produce great stuff, but the video camera that they use is still not as good quality. So that ended up paying off. So there's kind of like a trade-off. When I say don't spend a lot of money, learn your craft first, I stand by that. I think you really should become experienced and have quality before you jump into just having expensive equipment. Obviously, you can't. If you aren't the master behind it, then that equipment becomes useless. But then there's also a point where you should invest in high quality equipment because certain investments will pay back. I think spending money to advance your business is an extremely important thought as an entrepreneur. A lot of people think that being an entrepreneur means that you're money-based, you're money-minded, you want money. Of course, that's the idea, is that one day you become successful enough to take care of yourself and your family with money financially, but a true entrepreneur will spend money to make money and will have no qualms about doing so. Meaning, if you have to be smart about how you spend your money. If you spend your money on, like say, for example, you need a better microphone, just like me. You need a better microphone, but you don't need a microphone that's like this. You don't need a podcasting crazy microphone. You just need something that's good for voiceovers or something, and it will just really make your recipe videos a lot better. But you don't need to go overboard and buy this crazy professional broadcasting rapping mic with an interface and everything and spend $1,500, $2,000. You could spend $200 and be fine. So you can drop your expense by about 1,000%. And then you can use that money more effectively. Be effective with the way that you use your money, especially when you have less money. You can use that extra, $1,400 that you wouldn't have spent on that equipment, and you can use that on, for example, marketing. You can pay people on Instagram who have good followings to post your products, to post your channel, to talk about you positively. And I know that sounds crazy, but like doing that is going to be so much more of a investment than having a better microphone. Getting your name out there, getting your exposure out there is going to be a lot better. That's not the only purchase, of course, as an entrepreneur. Of course, there's so many different things. You could buy in bulk, so you get a discount, a volume discount. That's something that you could do if you're very planned and you know how you're going to use stuff and how you need it. Or you can purchase, for example, a car that can actually lug all of your equipment around if you have to do that. So, for example, my best friend is a musician, so he's looking into upgrading his car from a small Honda Civic or Camry, I think it is, to something more large like a CRV. That's a good investment on his part, not because he wants to have a better car, but because he wants to be able to move his stuff more efficiently to and fro, which is going to make his quality better, his timing better, his presentation better when he gets to a venue that he's playing at. See what I'm saying? I think spending money is important, but I think spending it on the right things is very important. So from my experience, I want to say this really quick. Don't jump in too quickly. Like, for example, as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to get excited about a new thought. And for example, like I got excited about like live streaming, on Twitch. It's like video game stuff. You like play video games and people can watch you live and watch you like talking and stuff. And so I spent money on a live streaming application, a thing that you plugged into your video game console and you plug it into your computer and then people can see you live stream. I didn't end up using it ever. And the reason was because I didn't have time. But I bought it because I was excited. I had been reading all this stuff. I had been reading how it works and how, the payouts work and the advertisements work and how easy of a job it seemed to me. I thought it was very alluring, right? And so when I went and just purchased it because I had read so much stuff. Be careful as an entrepreneur that you don't get too excited and then impulsively make decisions, especially about purchasing things and equipment, because you will quickly find yourself purchasing the wrong things. So I would say sleep on any decision you have. Don't make it in the middle of the night. And also think about it many times. Will you have time to use this thing that you're investing in? Is it a good choice? let's go through one more topic. I have a few more, but let's go through one more topic and then just end this video, just so we can keep it relatively short. And just because I wanted to test this out, hopefully nothing's going wrong. Hopefully this audio sounds good. I really do apologize if any of this is bad at all. I have a few things to tweak out and iron out before this is an official setup that I know is working correctly. But that's how you got to do it, right? You got to practice, make it good. And luckily, you guys are here to help me with that. So thank you so much for listening to this. The last thing I would say is make friends in the industry you're in. And that means like forums or meetups or conventions. If you expand your experience, you'll expand your clout. And your clout meaning your locus of control, how much you can control. By having friends in the industry you're in, and like I said, you can meet them in forums or meetups or conventions, you're going to have so many things. One, you're going to have a base of people that you can contact who are doing the exact same thing or a very similar thing to you, so you can make decisions that are already tried and tested. For example, whenever I have a new thought, like, for example, say a new company hits me up and I'm like, wow, I really like this company. I really like what they're saying to me. I really like everything about this. But I know that Chelsea and, numerous other people, but Chelsea's my go-to girl when it comes to like finances. I'll text her and I'll say, hey, this company is offering me this much money to do this and this and this, and they want me to go to this expo and that, blah, 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 blah. What do you think about this? And the deal that I just previously had thought, wow, this is so crazy. I'm so lucky to be getting this. She might say, really? Is that all they're giving you? And then my mind gets flipped because I thought I was getting really hooked up. I thought I was being rewarded. But then Chelsea says, no, I've done this many, many years. I'm bigger than you in terms of following. And when I was at your following, I got this much. And at my following, I get this much now. So in proportion, you should be getting this much. You should be getting twice that amount of money. And this has happened before. Chelsea has straightened me out with sponsorship deals and things like that. And I'm massively grateful. That's something that if you didn't have friends in the industry, you wouldn't know. Also, other things like say you're like, oh, I want to buy this new camera or whatever piece of equipment it is in your sector. I want to buy this new microphone. You text your friends. You say, hey, man, have you heard about that new microphone, the Shure SB70? Did you think that was a good mic? And then they'll say, oh, yeah, dude, that's a good one, but they just came out with the Shure SB80. Who knows? Other people are if you're truly friends with other entrepreneurs, they're fast, strong, and progressive thinking people. So they're going to be just as motivated as you are, but with different things, obviously, because they have different hours of the day and they have different things they can do in the day. So you have to take advantage of the fact that collectively you can have a hub of information that is just so valuable. Not only that, though, of course, having friends in the same industry helps you grow, helps you expand your business. Of course, if you guys have something in common, it's great to expand and expose your audiences to each other's channels so that you can grow. Or if your product is similar, you guys can set up a product, like relationship, or maybe you just do one-off thing where, like, oh, this is a Beyond the Week and RTB collaboration, and we make a shirt together or something. Or say you're like, oh man, I'm a rapper, and one of the people I met at the last Music Con was this really great singer. She's just beautiful voiced. I think it'd be great to have her on the hook. See what I'm saying? You make cohorts and friends, and then not only is it a friendship that you build as actual friends, but it's mutually beneficial, hopefully symbiotically beneficial as a business relationship. And that's where those relationships can get really powerful. As long as you are making true friendships and you're not taking advantage of anybody, it's very obvious when someone becomes your friend or is trying to become your friend or is being friendly to you simply for the fact that they can receive business benefits from you. And when that happens to me, I immediately lose all interest and respect in terms of trying to be someone's friend. And I understand the reasons that they're trying to get to be my friend. I understand that. But at the same time, you have to understand that, like, I have to be your friend first before I try hooking you up massively with business, right? It wouldn't make any sense if I just tried to hook every single person up ever with a better business. I want to see my friends succeed. You know what I mean? I want to see people that I like and people who have done something for me and back and forth do well, right? Because I've been with them for a long time and I've seen them struggle. I've seen them work, and I value everything about that. And hopefully those people would be the same for you. Now, in terms of friends outside of the industry, I would say surround yourself with people who are supportive, positive, motivated, and successful. Now, it doesn't really matter if they're in the same industry as you. Of course, it helps if they're in the same industry. There's much commonality, and it makes it easier to talk about things, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But just having productive and ambitious people around you is going to help you become more productive and ambitious. Your life is like the general mood of your life is dictated by the people that you're surrounded by. So if you're constantly around people that you partied with in college, but now you've become an entrepreneur and you've become very business-minded and ambitious, but they are still just college kids who are looking for the next party, trying to figure out how to get to drink without getting a hangover. They're trying to find a news girl. They're trying to figure out how to get into that frat party, blah, 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 blah. And then on Saturdays, they're lazy because they drank on Friday and they don't really want to go out, do anything in the afternoon. They don't want to help you work on anything. They don't have any input on your ideas. Then the general mood of your life is going to be lazy and unambitious and party driven. But if you have friends who are ambitious, like for example, Kurt, my best friend, he's an ambitious and very creative. Creative is a strong adjective I would use to describe Kurt. He's part of the music industry. He loves music. He knows nothing about video. He knows nothing about fitness. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But because he's ambitious and because he's creative and he likes to work, I can always count on him to not only, one, support me whenever I have a new idea. I'll tell him, I'll be excited about the idea. Oh, dude, I want to try this. I want to do this podcast thing. He'll be like, oh, wow, tell me about it. Tell me about it. And same vice versa. I always want to hear about his goals and the things that he's going after. But also because he's so excited and because he's so ambitious, it makes me want to be more ambitious. If you surround yourself with people who are working really hard and then you find yourself not working really hard, it's going to feel odd because all of your best friends work really hard and you're going to be like, well, maybe there's a disconnect here and I'm not working hard. I don't know why I'm not working hard, but I should start working a little harder. I should start setting things up for myself so that I have more to do all the time because my friends do all the time. You see, it kind of rubs off. If your friends, another thing that's great is if your friends are successful, and I'd say I have about half and half of my closest friends being more successful than me and less successful than me. Having friends that are more successful than me helps me because I hear not the limits, but I hear that the limits I thought that there were are actually much farther. And the goals and targets that I was trying to hit earlier are now a little bit, in proportion, they look a lot smaller and a lot more achievable. So, say my friend is making $400,000 a year. I never thought I would ever be able to make $400,000 a year. I always thought I could make eventually like 100. That would be amazing to me. But now I'm finding that at 100 for that person is not impressive for them. Like that would be a bad year for them. And then I'm starting to reevaluate myself and my goals. And I'm saying, hey man, they're doing the same thing as me. And their goal this year, their target is $400,000. I can try to double my income this year because then I could make whatever it is, $1,000. Maybe it's like $50,000. I can make 50 next year. And the next year after that, I can aim for 100. But the cap is so raised because I know that my friends are succeeding at what they're doing so well that I want to improve the amount of success in myself. And even if they aren't in the same market as you, say they're a rapper and they're doing really well and you're trying to make videos and clothes and stuff like that, it can still inspire you because you're like, damn, that person is working really hard and they're seeing success come out of it. And the reason they're seeing success come out of it is because they're staying consistent or whatever, the attributes are that you're noticing. And then you can try to have more of those things that you're seeing in them. You can try to put more of that person into yourself. See what I'm saying? It rubs off, but it also inspires and kind of forces you to improve what you are doing. So there's some entrepreneurial thoughts and talks. There's so much that goes into it. I would love to talk even more. I don't know if this is if this is an interesting topic or if this is kind of like a played out, talked out topic at this point. But if you guys would like to hear more about this entrepreneurial idea and anything else I can come up with, because I have so much to go into, so much more, like my notepads aren't even being touched right now, I would love to. So please let me know in the comments that you would like to see more of this entrepreneurial talk. But also in the comments, please let me know what you guys would like to hear, what like topics you'd like to hear on the podcast. This is not an official episode. This is really just me testing the systems, doing a little bit of a longer video, seeing if I can mix the video and the audio well and if it works well like that. In the future, I do plan for the podcast to record multiple podcasts and have multiple podcasts come out per month. So maybe like 3 audio podcast and one video podcast, meaning that, you can go on either SoundCloud or iTunes and download the audio podcast, and there's literally no video. But then just to keep people in the loop and to understand that there is a podcast and to keep audience coming in, this is kind of an entrepreneurial thought right here. I'll put out one of these where you can see me talking on the microphone. You can hear the quality of the audio, and you can understand what you're expecting to see in the podcast. And a lot of people are video people, not podcast people, but after seeing this video, maybe they'll say, wow, I really would like to hear the podcast. I'd like to hear other topics that this person can think of and see if I like just hearing it. And maybe from doing that, I can get people to become followers of the podcast. You see what I'm saying? Anyways, though, that's the plan. Is I think I'm going to do between 2 and 4 podcasts a month, 1 or 2 of them being video podcasts or accompanied by video on the YouTube channel so you can see it as well. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. If you would like to see me on iTunes or SoundCloud or what you like to do. I'm also going to open a Patreon very soon so that we can kind of help support this whole thing going through and the extra time that's going to take to do this whole podcast thing. And, I'm just excited about everything about this. All the ideas that are coming in. I'm just overwhelmed, but excited as hell to figure it all out. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for sitting through this talk. I really would love to hear what you guys think about the quality of it, and I'd love to do more. So thank you. If you enjoyed this, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Team Beyond the Week. CT.
Lift heavy or die, MIRIN, motherfucker.